bring all that up because I have discovered that Jesus' ascension is just like those things. And I never understood. I've gone to seminary. I have 2 graduate degrees. I never understood how essential the ascension of Jesus is to the Christian life. Never understood it till a year ago. And I went to a conference in the Denver area. And one reason I went is one of their speakers I knew was really, really good. And he explained the ascension. And what I discovered is that the ascension is so much more than that quick little one verse in Acts that serves as a tipping point from the Gospels to the book of Acts. It is essential. The last time I preached, a couple of weeks ago, talked about how we were united with Jesus on the cross and in the resurrection, and how important that was. We were united with Jesus on the cross, in the resurrection, and that is what forms the foundation for salvation and the new Christian life. But here's the thing I never understood. We were also united with Jesus in his ascension, and that is the basis for being able to live the Christian life. Let me explain. You see, when Jesus was raised from the dead, that was the beginning of his exaltation. Now, if you remember, he gave up his heavenly glory in order to come to our little sandbox and become one of us. And he obeyed God to the point of excruciating death on a cross. Now, what Philippians chapter 2 says is this. Because he did that, he gave up his heavenly glory, came here, became one of us, obeyed God to the point of death. It says, God lifted him high and honored him far beyond anyone or anything ever, so that all created beings in heaven and on earth will bow in worship before this Jesus and call out in praise that he is the master of all, to the glorious honor of God the Father. Wow. I mean, those words just start ringing bells, and I hear trumpet fanfares whenever I read that. But that was not the end of it. When Jesus ascended, that was the beginning of his rule. That was the beginning of his reign. When you read to chapter 15 of 1 Corinthians, some of what Paul talks about is that Jesus' rule of God's kingdom is going to continue until he has defeated all of God's enemies. And in Mark 16, verse 19, the very end of the gospel there, it says, Jesus was taken up into heaven, and he sat at the right hand of God. we're familiar with those words. What it means is Jesus ascended to become God's right-hand man, the one that God depends on, the second in command, who runs the kingdom for God.